Welcome back for another episode of Full Retard. Today we have some Am I the A-hole questions. First up, am I the a-hole for telling a guy with autism off because he wouldn't stop talking about something he knows nothing about? By Shut Up AITA. I, 29 female, am 3 years into my PhD. I have published many papers and been a co-author on even more. I've done field studies and teach at a university. Basically, I know my field. I speak a few languages and teach a group of people outside of work. We meet up once a week and talk in that language. We are all friends and it's very casual. Last week, one person of the group asked if they could bring a mate from work who's interested in the language too. She said that her mate is on the spectrum and that he might not know when to stop talking. I said bring him along and we'll see how he fits in. The actual lesson went well and I think we were all happy. Usually some people stick around for a bit after and we just have a few drinks. This is when it started. As it turns out, Kay is interested in my field of study. He asked me some questions and I was happy to answer. But then it started getting weird. He kept arguing with me and correcting me, telling me what I apparently misunderstood and so on. It was quite awkward and my friends tried to gently to let him know that he was probably out of line. He kept asking me about my opinion on studies and papers, but in an aggressive, almost questioning way. The last straw was when he told me that I misinterpreted the findings of a study that I was a co-author of. I was sick of it and said, listen, buddy, I know you think that you know everything about this field, but if you had actually bothered me to read who et al. Is, then you'd know that I wrote this effing paper, so please just shut up. Not my proudest moment, I admit, but at this point he'd been trying to beat me for over 30 minutes. He left after that, but later messaged me that he'd informed my university of my discriminatory behavior towards people with autism. Now I'm wondering if I went too far. No, you're not the a-hole. He clearly was acting like he knew everything, so that's his. If he can't accept the criticism that you gave, that makes him the a-hole. Up next, a story by Apartment Treblee. Am I the a-hole for not giving a couple who's going camping with me a tent for two and asking them to sleep in the girls' tent and boys' tent? I was organizing a camping trip, invited a lot of friends, and I had a couple tents to lend out. I treated spots in the tents as first come, first served. As of this weekend, the tents were planned out like this. My big dome tent, the guys' tent, 2 guys were sleeping in there and there was room for 1 more. My other big dome tent, the girls' tent, 2 girls were sleeping in there and there was room for 1 more. Julie's little tent, my friend Julie's tent, she would be sleeping in it alone. It could fit 2 snugly, but she wanted to sleep alone. My little tent, my own tent, I'd be sleeping in it alone. It could also fit 2, but very tightly. So when my friend Jess wanted to come and bring her boyfriend, I said that there was room in the tents for them. She could sleep with the girls and him with the guys. She said that they should get a tent to themselves because they're a couple, and it would be weird for her boyfriend to sleep with 2 guys he's never met. I said that I'd been treating tent spots as first come, first serve, and everyone had already picked their spots. She was like, why do you and Julie get 2-person tents to yourselves? And I said that Julie bought her own tent and that since I was organizing the trip and supplying almost everything, I took first dibs and picked my favorite tiny tent. She wanted me and Julie to share and give her one of the tents of ours for her and her boyfriend, or for one of us to join the big girls' tent and give them our tent. I said that if they wanted a tent for 2 that much, they could get a cheap one at Walmart for the weekend, but I didn't want to change tent arrangements when I told everyone for weeks that tent arrangements are first come, first serve. Jess told me it was really inconsiderate of me that I'm acting like a kid having girls and boys tents and that grown-ups will let couples sleep together. I said it's not about not letting them sleep together, it's just that the only spots are in the girls' tent and boys' tent. Am I the a-hole for not switching spots? No, you're not the a-hole. If she wanted to go camping and she wants her own tent, she can go buy her own tent.
Yeah, I completely agree. This one seems more like an entitled douchebag than a choosing beggar, though. Thanks for tuning in to another episode. Be sure to subscribe and like this video on YouTube. Subscribe to our podcast, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter.